Okie dokie. Hi! It's Riikka Kovasin here with a live about, well, an autumn card, and I'm talking about mixing powders, and we'll also go through with the wow changers, but there's still a couple of minutes before I actually start making the card, so just let me know that you can see and hear me okay, so that we're ready to start then with this card. And well, English is not my native language, so I'll hope that everything runs smoothly. And also I want to say to you a happy World Card Making Day. We're having a hop in the DT blogs, started a couple of hours ago. This is my card for that hop, and well, you can find the link or the chain of link, let's say, in the wow embossing powder blog, so you can hop along, and there's a prize to be won during that hop. So while we wait, I can just share how I made this card, for example, and Joe is going to be here to help with any questions. If you have any questions, just type them in, and either Joe will answer them or then I will after the show. Sorry. Hi Daniel! So about this card, these are just stamped apples from Fruit for Thought set, but to me this was kind of maybe more interesting because I made this plaid kind of pattern using just double-sided tape and an adhesive pen, and then naturally wow embossing powders. Hi Emma! So depending where you're watching, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and welcome to the World Card Making Day Live. So this is for the hop, this one, and this is something I'm recreating during this show. So it's about mixing powders. Either I'll show you two ways to make those mixes or the mixed look. Let me show you this a little bit closer. So you can see, for example, the pumpkin isn't just orange, but there's speckles of red and yellow in there, as well as these autumn leaves. They are not of one color, but in fact a mix of different colors. And well, then there's also these. You're probably seen these already, the wow changers that change the look of embossing powders. So this is a set I made with a YouTube video to kind of introduce those powders, and there's one with the original powder and then 3 with different changers, but you can see that on wow embossing powder YouTube or my own. So welcome, thank you for joining me today, and well, don't forget to share that we are live, because there's a gift card, $50 or £50, sorry if I said it wrong, gift card to wow embossing powder to be raffled among those who share the live. So let me just check the clock. Yeah, we are good to go. So let's get started. Let's start with the fun stuff. So making the embellishments first, and then put it all together. So what I've done already is to cut some elements for my card out of white cardstock, so nothing too fancy, just white cardstock. Let's do, for example, those leaves first. So this is the other way to mix the powders. So I'm just popping the die cut leaf. If you want to know the Sizzix sets, just let me know, and sorry about that. Let me try to focus. Why isn't it focusing? Sorry, I've had this problem a couple of times during a live nowadays. I don't know why. Okay, better. So yes, I'm just dabbing the leaves to my, well, embossing ink pad, so they are nice and juicy for the powders. And then let's pop these first. So another way, or the first way to mix the powders is actually not mixing them in a jar, but on top of the project. So just drizzle some powder to the die cut, not covering totally, there's still white showing through. And then you can pour it back to the jar. Then another color. As you can see, I'm more heavy-handed with this one. So there's more coverage with the green. Back to the jar. And then the last one, let's put some yellow here. So the first one of these powders I used, it was honey. The second one is olive, and then this one is lemon. If you want to keep your powders really pure, then this might not be a good way, because there is a slight risk that you end up contaminating the powder a little bit. There might be a loose granule here and there of the other color. The other option, in a way, is that you emboss them one by one, because when you heat the powder it will melt and they will kind of mix in anyway. But to me this is the kind of nicest way to mix the powders, to get that gradient kind of lifelike look. So let's heat this up. Go. Let me pull it up close. I think we need another layer, but getting there. So it's not just that there's one color, like one green or one yellow or one brown, but kind of a mixture of those different colors. So let's pop all three in and put some lemon. Oh, silly me, I need to put another layer for these. So here we go, another layer of embossing ink. And then a teeny tiny tad. As you can see, I'm going with a light hand where I want just a teeny tiny bit. The kind of ends are going to be more yellow, but then there's just speckles of yellow. Otherwise, jar. Then some green. Where's olive? There it is. Olive is an earth color, so it's kind of matte and earthy. Perfect for these ferns, I think they are called. And then the leaf. As the wow embossing ink is really slow drying, so I'm able to fiddle around with the powders without any haste to... Okay, now I put it on the table, sorry. Any haste to actually get embossing in an instant. And then honey. And for the leaf. Nothing kind of stick there. This time I actually get them into the jar. So let's again emboss these. So these are more or less done. The fern leaves, I think they are called fern, hopefully. Then let's treat this leaf with some yellow. It reminds me of birch, so usually those leaves turn yellow, so let's go heavy with the yellow. And then I'll show another way to make a mix of embossing powders with the wreath. I shouldn't have chosen such an element because I don't know how to actually pronounce the word nicely, so sorry. So let me again show you this one up close. So there's the speckles of green in the middle of the yellow, so it's not just one tone. Okie dokie, then let's do this one. Again, the start is the same. I just ink the die cut using the wow embossing ink. But this time I'm making the mix in a little jar. It has something already in it, but let's make a little bit more. So what I mixed for the wreath part, so this one, it's actually bark, the same powder I used in these 4 cards. A little bit of the bark in the jar, and then I added some of the changers, the texture version. Not glisten, not sheen, but texture. So this is kind of an additive to your existing embossing powders. So you can get more out of the powders. If you want to add texture, well, then you add texture. If you want to add, let me show you from these, sparkle, then you add the glisten powder. Or if you want to add sheen, like make the powder a little bit more translucent and shiny, then sheen is the powder. So this time I put them both in a jar and just mix them together like that. So whereas with these mixtures I'm able to manipulate where I'm getting which color. If you do a mix of your own in a jar, then you're kind of getting the same granules throughout the whole thing. So there's not going to be a place where there's more or less of the one color, especially when I just put one color in. But there's like, how do you say it? The powder will be the same in each part of the design. There's not going to be darker, lighter, yellower places, but rather everything is going to be similar looking. For these branches it's a good thing, but if you want to have more kind of lifelike leaves, for example, then mixing the powders on top is a good way. Let me move those first, otherwise I'll just blow them away. So what the texture powder does, it lightens the powder a little bit, but also adds texture to your embossing. So when with just one embossing powder you get kind of smooth surface, this one turns it into, well, rougher, grungier effect. Let's do another coat of that. So again, I just ink the die cut and try to find the right jar. That one. A little bit more. If I want, I can naturally mix the two ways. If I would like to have some of the wreath or twigs darker, I could sprinkle some of the bark before adding the mixture on top, so that in parts there would be like darker. If you're just joining in, thank you for coming, and also don't forget to share, because there's a gift card raffle going on. I'm not sure if the camera is able to pick up anything from this one. Let me try with the ready card, because there's something underneath, so maybe, yeah, now we're having a better chance showing that there's actually this kind of grid on top with the texture powder. I think I'm going to add a little bit more bark into the mix to get it a bit more darker. So there's still texture embossing powder in, but just add a little bit more color to the mix. So I'll make a third layer on top. Naturally, you could use more than one powder when using texture powder. For example, add some honey in, because that adds a little bit of lighter tones in there as well, so it's more like a rusty, or then some orange for kind of rust effect. This time there was enough to just cover the whole thing with one go. Let's move that aside for a while. Here we go. A nicer tone, a bit darker. So while you're playing with the changers, remember that they kind of dilute the powder. So if you mix a lot of the changers with a little bit of the powder, you're getting more kind of diluted powder in that way. Then one more element, and it's the pumpkin. I actually thought, when I had a vision for this card, that I have a pumpkin die, but it ended up that I don't have. So I had, for once, such a strong vision of what I wanted to do, so that I carved my own little pumpkin stamp just to make a pumpkin. So this is just used with something like Speedy Carve, I think but it's from a local craft store, this carving material. And why it's black because I tested it with archival ink first to see that the pattern works. Let me see if this is going to be a grayish. Yeah, some of the powder is pigment from that black ink is leaking through, but it doesn't matter because we're going to cover it anyway. So with the pumpkin, I made a mix of the powders the same way I did the mix for those branches, but this time I didn't mix any changers in, I just mixed different powder colors. So some pumpkin kind of orange, this is Bird of Paradise, some red, this is apple red or red apple red, that way, then some yellow, not too much of that. And then let's add a little bit honey as well. Okay, we added a little bit more. Set the jar. So like with adding changers, then you have to mix the powders. And it's really easy to simply by shaking the jar. And then let's cover the whole thing. So the end result is going to be something like, whoops daisy, now I hit it too hard, no worries. So the end result is going to be something like pointillism, so there's dots of different colors in the design. Actually, you can see it better now that I tapped some of the powder away. So there's points of yellow, points of red. Let's bring a bit newer ink pad and try again, because this one is so much juicier than the one I use all the time. There we go. And then another pumpkin. And let's melt it. Yes, looking better. But let me try to show you, yeah, that there's the dots of red, dots of orange, beige. So it's kind of those pointillism works where you put a dot of red and yellow next to each other, and when you look at from afar it looks like orange. So now that we have the elements here, then where's the brush? Here we go. Let me move this to next to it so you can see that there's a little difference between this and that. And that is to kind of create a shadow. This is just black watercolor. And as embossing powder will resist the watercolor or any kind of ink or otherwise that has water, I'm able to kind of make the shadow just by adding some black on top, then letting it dry, and then I'm cutting it out of the cardstock. So then I have my little pumpkin. A bit more. You want a bit darker lines here to kind of highlight the shape more. Then comes the dull part, because I need to cut the, well, it didn't get that much darker. I need to cut my card base and this piece on top. So this is A4 sheet of white cardstock, and as I'm going for 10.5 and fold it, then it's just 21 centimeters. I'm talking in centimeters, and then 10.5, and there's going to be the fold line. There we go. That's our card base, and I have black ink on my finger. And then this is the piece we can use on top, so nothing is kind of wasted. And let me check about the size, so it's about 2 centimeters, 1.5 away. Oh, sorry, I need to change the cutting plate. Here we go. And then I'm backing it up with some craft colored cardstock. About there. Does it fit here? Okay-ish. Maybe just a teeny tiny bit away. No, that's from this one, from this one. Sorry, it seems I'm all over the place today. Then let's add these two together. For that I'm using just regular double-sided tape. I often just go around the edges of the piece, kind of making a frame of the double-sided tape, and not that much more, but as I'm going to use watercolors on top, I'm kind of supporting the cardstock a little bit by adding a little bit more of the tapes. Naturally you could use just wider, I just only have the thin one. So then I just add a couple of more of those. And let's put these on top of each other. And then let's add the watercolor. You can use any color, but I wanted to kind of highlight the autumn feel by using orange tones in the background as well. So a little bit of orange, a little bit of really warm yellow, maybe a hint of green here and there as well. And a touch of brown. So it's just to give the card a little bit of a background, and then to mask the transition between the blob of, let me just move that aside just a little bit. Well, kind of mask the transition between the blob and the untreated paper. I add a little bit of splashes on top with the same colors, so there's something happening in the between of the two areas. This is a really easy background. Then let's dry it. This time I'm using the setting 1 instead of the 2, which I have used previously with the embossing powders. And let it air dry for a little bit as well. In the meanwhile, I can cut out my little pumpkin. You probably all know this, but when you're cutting something, it's whatever you're cutting, you need to just move that around, whereas the scissors stay put. because then it's faster and more kind of easier for you. So there we have our pumpkin. Now where did I put the leaves and stuff? They're here. And then let's do this one, because then we can just put everything together with a little bit of stamping and it's done. Okay, sorry about that. Now I see that we are off focus again. Perfect. Better. I guess it's all the white that it causes the trouble. Every time I put the white paper, it doesn't know where to focus. So this one is the same, just inking the little thank, then covering it with brass. I use gold quite a lot because, well, that goes to everything, but I thought that brass would be better fitted to this autumn card. So this doesn't quite look the same as the one I have carved because, well, like with the leaves and others, I double embossed it to get a thicker coat of embossing powder on top, so it's kind of rounded. So let's put in another layer, and this time I'm holding it from a different place. So there, it's more kind of rounded. Then just a quick so there, can I, that way I can hide the place where I was holding the die cut. So, and the card base seems almost dried, which is good. Then I need just a little bit of stamping on top. It's kind of just to give contrast. Contrast to the piece. So just a touch. Okay, and we are off focus again. Please. Thank you. So as you can see, I'm not stamping with the whole stamp, I'm just warping the stamp in my hands to get a touch of the black in there. Then this part, the not rough, that's something totally different. The round twigs, because sorry, I can't say the word, it seems, for the love of me. I'll just use a stapler to adhere it. So it's kind of dimensional in a way, but also it's really easy. And it gives the card a little bit of extra something. Then let's add the leaves. Like, let me bring this again to the camera so you can see that I will mimic the whole thing. So I'll put the solid leaf here behind. because otherwise it would be maybe overpowering. And I'm using just craft glue to adhere everything. Then let's add one of the ferns that way, like in the previous card. Then another this way. And then there's the crab. For the pumpkin, I'll use some foam tape. Naturally, you can use foam dots as well. I've been playing around with those foam dots so long that I was really happy. I was thinking that, well, let's try that, and now I only use this tape because it's so much faster than fiddling around with the little dots. Then the pumpkin on top. Then there's our little word. Now I need to be a bit closer to the project, so I actually took a stool, trying to get just a teeny tiny bit of the glue to the back. Adhere it in. Here we go. Then a couple of crystals and then some pen work to kind of finish the card. And I'm actually really redoing this. Normally they turn out a little bit different, but this is almost the same, it seems. Then the word sticker. There's white and black here, but I chose the black one because, well, if you look at it, there's a lot of contrast here, and when I add the pen lines, there's another place, so there's kind of two places already. Then I thought that the third should be here. To me, that looks more balanced than just adding a white one, but naturally it's whatever you decide, or you can use a typewriter, or you can stamp it. I just happen to have that thank as a die, so I used it and then added the U with the word sticker. So a couple of hand-drawn details to finish. As you can see, there's some dots and circles. Very easy way to add a little bit of your kind of own handwriting in a way to a project. Then I used the marker also to highlight some of the kind of shadows. This is a Posca acrylic marker, so that will stay on top of the embossing powder when it's dry. So that's why I kind of try to blend it in using my finger, which then causes that I have really black fingers before I go and wash them after the show. So like that, and then the final touch is to add a kind of stitch line running across. If you have a stitch line stamp, that would do nicely as well, but it doesn't take that long by using a pen. And it doesn't have to be this kind of acrylic paint pen. You can even use a regular pencil, because then it's not as harsh. It's more grayish tone than just black. There we go. So there we have it. The last thing is to use the foam tape to adhere the ready kind of center of the card. If you want more color, then by all means do the card base or use ready card. You don't have to do it yourself in another color, for example red or orange, yellow, whatever, or go with teal color, kind of going to the other end or opposite color. So it's just to give you ideas how to mix the powders. You don't always have to have the perfect color at hand in the first place, but to use the colors you already have and mix two together, because especially if you look further away, those two colors then turn into another color because the grains are so small. Or then to have more out of your existing powders, use the changers to change totally the look of the powders. If you want more texture, or if you want more glittery effect, especially the glisten might be a great addition if you have just opaque or translucent powders, not those beautiful embossing glitters that WoW has. Then by adding the glisten to the existing powders, you can turn them into embossing glitters. So then just, oopsie daisy, now it's stuck to the wrong place. Here we go. Here we go, all done. Almost the same, but done live. So let's show you some details still. So there's the two powders mixed, or sorry, not two, 4 powders mixed together in a jar, kind of that dotty look. So these, on the other hand, are done just sprinkling the different powders on top. So it's more smoother color areas where there are the powders, but some kind of change in them, not just solid color. And here in the branch, there's the texture powder added, so it's more gritty, more wood-like. Thank you all for joining, and don't forget there's a hop going on with another chance to win a gift card to the WoW shop. This is my card for the hop, but there's so much inspiration from the DT in the hop, so go along and hop all the way, and don't forget to leave the comments. So thank you so much for coming, and thank you, Joe, for helping me. I hope it was okay. The screen froze with the comments, so I'll go through them now, but thank you all. Kiitoksia, jos oli suomalaisia katsojia. And happy World Card Making Day. Thank you. Bye bye.